Like I said,
Um,
my name is Kenneth
one
Smith, and
second,
I
I'm getting a
appreciate
little
you, Mr.
lag here.
Blackman, allowing me to, come and be on your podcast. I think what you do is a great thing. I've been watching lots of your episodes, and I really appreciate the fact that you're reaching out to the public works people in general and just showing them some love because we need it. And I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Like I told you, that the inception of this podcast was because, man, I've worked with you guys out in the field for years, and it seems like the only time a microphone gets put in your face if something's going bad. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Got to be a better way to highlight it. And then also, like, I feel like when you put a positive light at industries like this, it allows a lot of more youngsters to be able to enter into the industry. And instead of having to go build an app or go to the tech route or something that's hot and popular at the time, but to get a good paying career and be able to retire and move on with that. So yeah, again, thanks for hopping on the show. Let's get into it. So you are a public works superintendent, traffic operations department. So tell us what a random Thursday is like. What did you do today? Like, what did your day consist of?
Today was just like I said, another day at the office. We on Thursdays typically work on our 2 week plans, get those knocked out. Just planning ahead. I think that try to get around and do some like random visits to job sites. Just kind of keeping an eye on what's going on in the city of Galveston. Normally, like on Thursday or any other day, it's all about the same. We come to work, we get our crews lined up, get them ready to go out onto the job sites, make sure they're prepared, make sure they know what they're doing, how to go about it safely, and then really from there we just kind of check up on them and stay ahead of the game, man.
One thing I like what you just said in there is a 2 week plan. Can you tell us what that's about? Because I haven't heard that before. So tell us what a 2 week plan looks like and what the thought process is behind it.
Sure, no problem. Our 2 week plan here is this 2 week plan. We have work orders in our system that's a backlogged up to where we have 2 weeks worth of 2 weeks worth of work planned, and but we do it every week. So basically, you're just rolling in a perfect world. You're rolling just 1 week ahead, and you're adding 1 week to the back end of it. So it's a 2 week plan that's evolving every week, and it just keeps everybody kind of in touch. We send it to our director and deputy director. It keeps everybody on the same page as to what's going on in our department. And then just traffic department that does that. It's all departments that do that.
I like it. Like, it's nothing like having a plan and know what you're gonna do tomorrow. Because there's nothing worse than showing up to work and like, what do I do today? And then you just end up putting out fires all day and never
Right.
do anything for the future. It's always everything that's urgent.
That's right. You gotta have a plan, man. You don't have nothing. You don't have a chance if you don't.
Sure, sure. So let's talk a little bit about your backstory. I know you didn't grow up, you're not a mushroom. You didn't grow up last night into being a superintendent. And so talk about what your trajectory is like from high school, maybe through, after high school and where you're at today.
Sure. Like you said, I didn't grow up just yesterday. So um, got out of high school. During high school, I started working summer times with the Texas Department of Transportation, which is in the maintenance field, which we did traffic, drainage, streets, just right of way maintenance, anything you could think of with the transportation system of Texas. And I graduated, and I went to college for just a minute, and I ended up right back being full time with Texas Department of Transportation. And I spent the first couple of years thinking I wanted to leave it, but I'm glad I didn't because I stuck it out, and now I'm retired from the Texas Department of Transportation, getting a pension, and I mean I love that. I enjoyed my time there. With a state agency, you get all kinds of exposure to different types of methods and practices. So I was very, very fortunate and blessed to have managed to put in that many years with the same company and then leave with a pension, along with the experience and the stories to go along with that.
Sure. Then I saw you were a park ranger. Did I read that correct?
Yes, sir, you did. When I retired from TxDOT, I kind of bounced around with a smaller city than what I'm at right now, and a water company that I saw an opportunity to go work for a state park in Texas, Tyler State Park, and I thought it'd be nice to try because I love the outdoors, so I jumped at it. Did that for a minute, but I just missed being in like what I was used to. The park was great, but I miss being used to what I was, used to doing with TxDOT. And I miss the smell of asphalt. I miss being able to tell people, how to do certain things. I just miss that type of environment in general, which led me into the public works field because I wanted to go back to work to earn a second pension, like with the municipality, which I could not do with Texas Parks and Wildlife because it was the same retirement system as my other retirement system was. So I was just working for an extra check, and I wasn't working towards a second pension. So where I'm at now with the city, I am, and I'm back to what I'm doing that I love, my passion in life.
Okay, I like it. So let's say you're mentoring your younger self, young 22-year-old Scott. He asks you, he says, "Hey, what skill set should I pick up to be successful at what you're doing today as a traffic operations department superintendent? What would that skill set be?"
Sure. First off, 22-year-old Scott probably wouldn't listen to 53-year-old Scott, but if he did, I would tell him, have patience and be consistent. And when I say patience, don't just think that a year from now is like forever, because as you get older, as you grow in your jobs, a year is nothing. So be patient, be consistent, take the time to build a solid foundation of knowledge. Don't go in wanting to be the lead person in charge right off the bat. Learn what you got to do. Take the time to be the person that throws the hot mix into the pothole. Just things like that. Take that, and have patience. Because you got to have patience to see it all through the hills and the valleys, because any employment you take anywhere, you're going to have your ups and your downs. But by being consistent day in and day out, you can reach your goals and be successful. That's what I would try to emphasize. Also be a good listener. Soak in every bit of knowledge you can get from your coworkers, from your superintendents, from your supervisors, from your directors. Just soak it all in and be flexible and adjust to going to other departments. If they ask you to take on a certain project or task, take it. Take every opportunity you can to learn and make yourself more valuable. And in the end, you'll be happy that you did.
Gotcha. That's a good word. So it's story time. I need a story from Scott of when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
You bet. Okay, this was years ago. It's probably 2006, and it's like a nightmare. It's like yesterday to me. Worst day of my life on the job by far ever. So my agency decided to buy some used pre-coated aggregate for some chip seal we were going to be doing, some seal coating. And as everybody out there probably has heard, or know, oils, aggregates, how have positive, negative charges. It's just like a magnet. Positive attracts opposites, to the negative, and so on. And likes repel. So we were assured that this oil, and we'll just say for argument's sake or story's sake, that it was a positive charged oil, and we were going to be using another positive charged oil along with the aggregates was negative, had been out on the stockpile long enough to where it would not have an effect. Well, that was not the case. We shot out a mile's worth of oil, started going along behind it, applying the aggregate. It looked pretty. It was like the prettiest thing you ever saw in your life. Until that afternoon, after we already left, and it didn't bond with each other. It just started coming up. So the phone starts coming, start coming in from our dispatch, from the police departments. Cars were getting asphalt all on them. Windshields are being broken. It was just a huge nightmare. Now we're talking, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So what do you do? So we jumped into management mode, and we corrected this by sweeping off as much as we could, but you still have to kill the asphalt that's out there. So we got a hold of somebody that had some lime water. So we started using lime water to kill the oils, shut the aggregate off there, and we had somebody else out there that night, and we basically flagged around it all night long so we could get our tanker in the next day. Next day, we did have some non-pre-coated rock, so we reshot it like we should have to begin with, and we got past that. But I literally handled hundreds of complaints for dirty cars or broken glass. I probably had a 3-foot by 6-foot table with nothing but small sticky notes of people's names and numbers. And I had dirty cars on one side, and I had broken glass on the other, and I had to talk to every one of them, all of them over the course of a day and a half. Wow. And it got worse. It got worse than that.
It got worse?
Oh, yeah. it got worse because I was told, there's certain, like there's tort claims and there's liability claims. So if we spray something directly on the vehicle, it's a liability, and that means we can handle it a different way. If somebody runs through oil or picks up a rock and has it thrown into the windshield, it becomes a tort, which is handled another different way. So it was a tort basically, but I was told to handle it as a liability. So I was told to call everybody on that list and tell them, just go ahead and get your cars clean, and we'll pay for it with our petty cash or whatever it was, credit card, whatever it was. So several of them did. Luckily, only 4 or 5 of them did. And then I had to call every one of them back and tell them that we're not going to pay for it because it was handled inappropriately. And so that was my call to have to call them back, and that was horrible. I got cussed more that day than a Little League umpire. But that was my worst. And I learned from that. What I learned from all that is when you think something is wrong, don't sit back, even though it may be your director, your manager, your supervisor, your engineer, whoever it is. Don't allow yourself to be put in a position to where it's wrong just because they're in charge. Now, if they continue to tell you that, hey, I'm in charge, you're going to do what I say, well, then you do it. But don't just sit back knowing it's wrong. And I just had a gut feeling that day. I knew it was wrong. And I wish I had said more, because I think if I'd have said more, I might have been able to sway them to let's think through this a little bit closer, a little bit longer. And I did. So that's what I learned from all that. And thankfully, it's never happened again.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for that story. All right. So how does Scott keep showing up better and better? How do you keep your sword sharp? What's your personal and professional development regimen like?
Well, mainly it just goes back to just coming to work with a good attitude. I have a little group with my two. I have 2 supervisors that direct report to me. So I'll send them mostly on Mondays. I'll send them a little text saying, "Who wants to make this week theirs? Let's make today the best day ever." Just things like that. Even if I don't particularly believe it, I do. I tell myself that because I want to start off with a good attitude. If you come to work in a bad attitude, you're not going to be successful. So be enthusiastic. Keep things positive. And as far as sharpening the sword, right now with our director we have over Public Works, he has given us a very, very, very healthy training budget. So we try to spend that wisely and grow our people, grow myself. I do find some things on my own, training wise, and there's lots of stuff out there. I'll just put this out there for all your viewers. I'm talking about Texas now. I don't know about the rest of the country. Texas has a lot of grants out there for training. You just have to get in there and get yourself on the waiting list, and they'll come in. They'll train you in traffic control, pavement markings, bucket, certain types of equipment. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Grant money's out there for. So keep growing yourself. I believe in training. Yeah. I mean, it's very important to me.
Okay. One thing I like about what you do on LinkedIn is you post a lot about what's going on. And it's not like you're going super duper behind the scenes where it might get you in trouble or anything, but it's stuff that the average community member should probably, would like to see. And I appreciate that. And then, like you said, the positivity behind it. You're always in a upbeat mood. Where did that come from? What made you want to start posting about that with that type of energy behind it?
Well, just be honest with you. I didn't have a LinkedIn page until maybe 3 months ago. I had one I had made back when I was in college. But when I went to college way in my lifetime. But so I had that for school, but I didn't have a real LinkedIn page that was focused on what I did for a living. So I had been applying. I kind of wanted to, or I do want to, promote myself up into a higher position, assistant director of public works, something like that. So I had interviewed at and I won't say the cities, but I had interviewed somewhere and I was talking to my public works director, what can I do differently? How can I, so he suggested I do this. And I thought, okay, it's seemed kind of bored because I didn't know anything about LinkedIn. And I hate to say that, but I went in there and I made my thing. So I started thinking, you know what, I'll start posting some pictures. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. And the more I just, this became something I wanted to do. And I kind of lost focus on the reason why I started. I just knew I wanted to do it because I enjoyed showing everyone that cared to take the time to look at what we were doing in Galveston. I wanted to show off what my employees was doing, what we were accomplishing, because I was proud of what they were accomplishing, and I just enjoyed it. So that's why I started doing LinkedIn. I want to grow from that. I started myself a little podcast where we'll talk about like one thing per week for maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, love it.
I just kind of growing with it, man. I just like talking about what we do here, and I could talk for hours about road work in general, just because I enjoy that. I can tell you stories. That was a while ago. That was a bad story, but I have lots of good stories. But just staying positive, and you got to put your stuff out there, your brand out there in the way you want it presented. And I want the City of Galveston, I want Scott Smith, I want the traffic department, I want Public Works to be looked at positively. So that's why I do what I do on LinkedIn.
Dude, I love it, man. I wish more people had your attitude behind that, because I feel like we talked about before, if more people saw what's going on kind of behind the scenes, or just what, with the cool stuff that you do for the community, I think it'd be easier for more people to enter into the industry instead of going these other paths. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then I like looking at it also. So what would you say is the biggest misconception about your position? Like, let's say I asked one of your good friends, but they don't work with you, and I said, what does Scott do all day for the city? What would they get wrong in answering that question?
Well, okay, I'm just going to be kind of broad real quickly. I think it's a common misconception, not just about me or my role or my position specifically, but government employees. And I say government, I mean state, county, local employees in general, that we don't work hard and our jobs are overstaffed, that we have more people than what we need, which we know is not true. And we're underworked, which we also know is very not true. So like the joke I used to hear when I was with TxDOT, when I was growing up as a kid, you got the one person fixing the pothole while the other three are leaning on the shovel. And I would hear that stuff when I'd go to my friends' house. Their parents would say stuff. I'd go to church. And like, oh, you're that guy that leans on the shovel all day. And I'm thinking, no, come out there in that 100-degree weather with me, and I'll show you what leaning on the shovel feels like. So I think that's a common misconception, that we don't work as hard as what we do, honestly, in general. Now, do we lean on the shovel sometimes to take a break? Of course we do. Do we sit under a shade tree and cool off? Yes, of course we do. But I just think it's kind of like, they say the police officers like to go eat the donuts. I think it's a common misconception about public servants in general that we don't do the work that we really actually do in reality. So I think that's a common misconception about public works overall.
Agreed.
And I just kind of tie that into my role as well. When I go home, my wife said, "What are you so tired for? You didn't do anything today." So I even get it at home. So you see what I'm saying? So that's just a common misconception.
Gotcha. All right, let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Galveston. What ask of your community would you put on this billboard?
Okay, I looked at this, and I'm thinking it from two different directions. If I flipped it around 180, I would say, because like I said, I'm a steward of the public, and it's a 24/7 job, I would say, I would ask the City of Galveston, what could I do for you? But I'm already doing that. I mean, that's my job. I don't have to ask them. Now, would I like to hear from them? Yes. I would love to hear more input from them, what I can do for them. But if I answered your original question that you just asked me, it would be to watch out for us working in the streets and alleys and right-of-ways. We're here to perform a public service. We love to do that. That's what our job is. Our job is 24/7, being a civil servant. So just watch out for us. If you see us working, slow down just a little bit, maybe ease over just a little bit, so we can go home safely to our families. That's really the main thing I ask for. Is I want my employees and my fellow Galveston employees, my fellow public work employees across this whole country, is just slow down just a little bit so we can go home to our families and give us a break. And that's like a slogan, I think, I've seen on some billboards. It's like, give us a break. So but in reality, it's true. Just slow down just a little bit.
Gotcha. Let's say everybody from Galveston is listening to this, right? All the community members, and they're trying to figure out like what would be the most impactful pat on the back for your operators who are out there in the streets right now. Like, what would that be? Would it be like a honk and a wave? Would it be a free donut? What would that pat on the back be?
It's happened, and this happened a few weeks ago, and it happens. I mean, it happens from time to time. I wish it happened more, but what I would like to see is my employees, my ladies and my guys that work for me, they just basically want you to slow down, roll down your window, and say, you know what, you're doing a good job. They don't need anything else beside that. And really, that's about it. You know, that goes a long way. We did a project a few weeks ago. We had several citizens that live there would come out to say, you know, ask what we're doing and why we're doing it, and just tell us thank you. And tell us we're doing a good job. That's all I would want, and that's what anybody would want or needs. Just a little pat on the back, or just a kind word. We get paid, so we don't need anything like a cold drink or a donut or anything like that. We do just a kind word. That goes a long way.
Love it. All right, so let's say I'm coming to Galveston and I text you ahead of time and I'm like, hey, Scott, where can I go to get the best burger in Galveston? Where are you going to send me?
All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't eat out just a whole lot, but some places I have ate out at. The burger I had for lunch one day at Miller's Seawall Grill on Seawall Boulevard in Galveston was pretty daggone good. Anything you get there is good, by the way. So if you're ever in Galveston, you prepare to wait. You got to wait in line because that place is very, very busy. It's just because it's so good. But that burger and fries was great. And also, you get to have a good view of the Gulf while you eat. So you can't hardly beat that. Just the location, the food, anything you get there, you're going to like. Just like I said, though, get there early and be prepared to wait because it's a pretty good line.
Gotcha. All right, Scott, I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey, and then also offer up a word of inspiration and motivation to your Roads and Streets counterparts.
I have two mentors I think I look up to, and they're for different reasons, but similar as well. The first one's name was Brad Howell, and he was the one with TxDOT that when I kept thinking, you know, how will I ever become a supervisor if I can't get a job as a supervisor and get supervisor experience? And he took a chance on me, and he got me into being his assistant for 3 years. And he got me the experience I needed. Then he promoted off, and I basically followed his footsteps through TxDOT. I followed him to be the supervisor. Then when he retired, I followed him to be the district administrator. So I really appreciate what he did for me, and that meant a lot to me. We still talk and text each other to this day, and that was back in 1998 when he did that. So he was a great man. I appreciate everything he did for me. Another person is, and you've interviewed this person recently, is my current director, Trino Pedraza. Totally different than any director, manager, supervisor, whatever you want to call the title I've ever had before. He challenges me in ways I've never been challenged in my life, career-wise. And that's in a good way, in a positive way, he challenges. So he means a lot to me, and I'll throw his name out there any day of the week, that I appreciate what he's done for me and what he still does for me and all that. He wants things done a certain way. He has a great vision. And he's taught me so much. He's taught me more than I could probably put in this one particular podcast, or express in words, I should say. And that's really my main two.
Okay. And then what would you say to all the other traffic operations guys out there in the U.S.? They're listening. What do you say to keep them motivated, keep them inspired?
Get your certifications from IMSA. Take any advantage you can to learn that your particular city municipality will give you. Learn everything, and just stay in a good mood. It's up to you whether or not you want to be in a bad mood. It doesn't matter if you think that you have the worst supervisor, you have the worst conditions, you have the worst pay. It doesn't matter what you think. Just go to work in a positive mood and make the best of what you got, because that is your job, to do that and learn from it. Because it's a lot easier to go to work happy than it is to go to work angry. You'll get more from it if you come to work happy. It just learn. If somebody offers you an opportunity to grow, take it. There's so many times I've heard people say, well, what's in it for me? If I offer them like an extra type of job duty to kind of grow their resume, grow themselves as an employee, and I'm like, am I gonna get a raise from it? Well, yeah, maybe one day you will. I don't know, but you haven't even done it yet. So take that opportunity and grow with it. Grow with it. Make yourself so valuable that the city that you work for has to figure out how to pay you enough money to keep you. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Oh, that's huge, man. That's some good stuff. That's for sure motivational. All right. Well, Scott, thanks for hopping on the podcast. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Scott, any final words before we get out of here?
Just keep doing what you're doing, Mr. Blackman. You're doing a great job, and I love what you're doing, and I appreciate you taking the time to let me come on your podcast. It means a lot to me, and have a good evening, sir.
Thank you. All right, Scott. Well, again, thanks for hopping on. This has been the Public Works. This has been the Public Works podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
All right.